Okay, then I guess let's get started. Welcome to the to be determined.
The
No,
blank.
no fucking idea what the hell this shit's gonna be called. Podcast. Um, my name's Alonso.
Hello, I'm Toma.
I'm Ryan.
Okay. And so today we're going to discuss Weezer's 1994 seminal self-titled album, otherwise known as the Blue Album. And what we're going to try and do is we're going to go deep and talk about all sorts of different things and how it relates to our lives and all kinds of other music stuff. And then we're going to take that album and make it an EP. And so we'll go through each of our kind of EP versions of the album. Okay. So let me kick it off, I guess. This album came out in 1994. I think it was in May. It came out a month after Kurt Cobain died, 2 months after the Downward Spiral, and 3 months after Green Day's album Dookie. I remember Ryan. I remember that watching this video like off of one of your tapes of like recording MTV in the middle of the night. I think watching the video of Undone.
Wait, is Toma aware that this existed? That this was a thing?
I don't know. Maybe not.
So, at the magic time of our teenage years, Toma, I used to tape 120 minutes at Dad's, and then take those tapes back to Petersburg with me because Petersburg didn't have an MTV option. So I was the alternative music dealer in our small friend group.
I know I didn't know you guys at that point, but I'm laughing because separately in Mylam, I was actually doing the same thing. And it's a great story because my mom, for a very brief window in time, had signed up for DirecTV. Like just the briefest of, I think it lasted all of like max 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
And the reason that was very short-lived was because I would do that. I would stay up all night. I would tape like 120 minutes. I would like, Headbangers Ball, like whatever was on overnight, I was watching, I was like listening to, and she got really tired of like coming down at 3 a.m. and being like, go to bed.
Right.
So then she started putting a password on the DirecTV so that we couldn't watch it and and turn it on. So the lengths that John, Jill, and I then went to like get around that were probably criminal, actually, now that I think about it, in hindsight. But like I would call DirecTV and tell them I was her and be like, my kids have messed up the password again. I need you to reset it. We would stand behind her in another room and watch as she like entered the code in. We would put substances on the remote to see which things her fingers touched. Okay. And after a while, she got so goddamn tired of this that she was like, I'm canceling the DirecTV. But I was doing that same thing for all of 3 months. I was
Hercule fucking Poirot over there, like dusting fingerprints and shit.
You tried to. She was trying to keep me. I had music videos that really had to be watched, and I did not appreciate her meddling.
See, this is what lax parenting does for stories. Because I just taped it. I set up a thing and recorded, and I just taped it.
And then you would bring it back to school, and then we'd go over to my house and watch it.
Yeah, I'm examining my privilege, right?
Life was always harder in Milam, and it doesn't matter which aspect of life it was. But
this is a fair point you make, Ken.
No, good point.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny how many things like this kind of started from that. Like,
dude,
I have no idea what's on this tape, but let's make a copy of it and distribute it.
I feel like everything in the night, like Soundgarden. I remember watching Black Hole Sun on those tapes. I remember watching. Okay, I don't know if you remember this. I remember watching the video for Ween's song "Push the Little Daisies," and it was the most confusing fucking shit of all time. Because they're like on helium and like they're singing some sort of weird song. I just remember it being so fucking weird, but I never followed up or anything like that until much later.
Sure, yeah. Well, it's not like Ween was really like readily available without a trip somewhere.
Not at all.
Like,
no.
Yeah.
But many things.
Fun. Yeah. So I think that's probably accurate for the first time I can think of seeing Weezer. I mean, it's hard for me to piece together the exact moment because it didn't really hit me that hard. But yeah, it makes sense that that's where my first exposure came from.
Let me get back to that, so which is really interesting to me. Like it when I remember first hearing it and like first listening to the record and all that, like it did not hit really hard with me. It didn't like I wasn't like, yeah, this is my shit or whatever, like the way I was with other stuff in the 90s. And I don't know why.
I don't know. My first memories of like Buddy Holly, I mean, it was fine. It just, yeah, I don't know. It just didn't hook me hard. I remember other people started getting into it. It was one of those like, oh, okay, I guess I can have a music conversation with other people now. Like there's,
right.
I don't have to talk about, weird, obscure, metal or whatever that I was into at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was
like,
popular.
oh yeah, Buddy Holly. I like that. We
right.
can bond.
It was like pretty popular back then.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what about you, Jenny?
I actually, as far as I can recall, I think that I first heard it because John had gotten this album from like BMG Music Service or something.
Oh yeah.
Another back in the day reference.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of playing it around in his room, and that's where I think I really first heard it from him. But you want to talk about like, if you mentioned like things that we had like emotional baggage with or not, and I'm actually in the same boat as you guys. Like it was the sort of thing where I was like, it didn't grab me hard, but I think that was because to me, like Weezer was always that sort of like stuff that you could have on, and it was like kind of goofy. It was kind of like like a good time. It wasn't super serious, even though I think that, reading up on it, like some of them were meant to be serious, but it was just like that stuff that was like, I don't have any, it's not like a breakup song, my closest attachment to anything on this album by far is the Sweater Song, because it was just like, that was the one I latched onto like really tightly, and the rest of it kind of fell by the wayside. I mean, like Buddy Holly's cool and I like it, and I like when it came on I was like, yeah, but Sweater Song was like the anthem of just being a fucking, dingbat and just kind of goofing off. Like I remember, and I think Lewis, this was probably pre you showing up in high school, but
I was gonna say this is roughly that same time frame.
Maybe you were there.
No, you weren't there, dude.
I was there for maybe that first trip down where I was like dipping my toe in the water of like, I think I don't want to be up here anymore. I think I want to be somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah.
So the strongest like memory I associate with Weezer at all is being in Mrs. Marshall's class, and it was dead quiet, middle of some period. I don't even remember which one. And it was just super quiet. Everything was just like real still. We were reading. No one was talking. And down the hallway, she had the door open. You just heard like this very quietly, like someone singing the Sweater Song down the hallway, echoing,
Okay.
And it got like louder and louder. And we're all just like, the fuck? And this guy, Rob, who was a senior at the time, was just like, who was always like, never gave a fuck, was just walking down, if you want to destroy, and it was like the echo in the hallway. We were all just like that perfectly to me encapsulated like the vibe of that song. Is just like I'm just fucking bouncing, man, like whatever.
You totally hit on something I think there, which is that like you're right. Like I feel like the vibe was disposable, silly, fun. And like this was like a month after Kurt Cobain died, right? Like
Yeah. So it was nice to have some distortion and some lightheartedness. Yeah.
It's heavy. It's a heavy ass album. I don't know if you it's heavy as fuck.
I don't know how far if around. I'm just gonna jump around. Mm-hmm. But produced by Rick Ocasek, it's their first album. Yeah. Like this isn't like these guys have been hoofing it around the California scene for a couple of EPs even, or a 7-inch, right? Like straight up the first time they record anything, they record with Rick Ocasek at Electric Ladyland. So like, it was super tight in production. Like, it had just that perfect level of distortion that made it like angsty, but not limiting in terms of like oh, that's angry music. It's like that's grungy music.
You could hear the vocals, the harmonies. Rivers like is always like in half the time is like in falsetto.
Yeah.
So it's like very. No, I think you're right too. Like it is, the production is like really tidy, and like
it's crazy how clean this album is for like especially like you read a couple articles about where they were in recording a lot of this stuff, or where they wanted to record this stuff and where they recorded it. It's polar opposite. Like, they're like, oh, we'll do this thing in our garage. Like, we'll just record everything in the place that we practice and play.
Right.
And it's this like garage in the middle of, you know, suburban California. And like, it goes from that to this perfect, crisp, clean, like Boston-esque, like just, I don't know, who gets their first album produced by Rick Ocasek when he's established. Like, it's a different thing with like Rick Rubin producing early Beastie Boys stuff, right? Like, they're all on the come up. These guys are 23 and sitting down in a professional studio, and it shows.
Yeah, so with Ocasek, I think I read an article that they basically, the label was like, no, you're not going to record this shit on your own, right?
Yeah.
And so the label was like, okay, you got to pick a producer, and they looked at a list of producers, and they were like, oh, we like the Cars, like,
sure.
And then so they picked Rick Ocasek. I don't know, this is probably the smartest thing they could have done, just because, like, I mean,
lucky that they got to make that choice.
Yeah.
And there was another, he was producing a Bad Brains album at the time.
Right. It seems so crazy.
You're moving from Bad Brains, which, I mean, obviously it's not early Bad Brains, but it's still like, these are well-known punk artists.
Yeah.
And you bring in this like polished, poppy. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I feel like the DNA of this record is like just very, very different from like all the other kind of grunge or alternative like records back then, right?
Yeah, it's hard to call it like. So you were talking the 3 albums that came out, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's closest to Dookie. It's not Nevermind. Like, it does. Like, it feels melancholy, but it doesn't feel like a pensive melancholy that you got with Nirvana.
It's not. I feel like, I think you said Boston. Like, I think there's something there. Like, it's like Cheap Trick, Boston, the Cars, right? It's like a different.
I think it's very. I mean, to me at least, I just was like listening to it for like another time, like right before. It's very Cars to me, and I'll freely admit to probably being a bigger Cars fan than I am a Weezer fan, but I like this one.
I love the Cars.
But to me, it kind of, when I was listening to it again with that knowledge in mind, like there were definitely like, you know, I just kept hearing things and I was like, that's Rick, you know, because if you listen to the Cars, I think that that's true too. Even when he's got songs where he's kind of down, like it's still like not real super serious, and it's not long before it's just like, all right, well, let's just bounce again, you know? Like it had those same hallmarks to me.
And it's super compressed. Like the only time you get any kind of real sustain is through a guitar solo, right? Like everything is just like punctuated and distorted. But yeah.
What about the Beach Boys? Because like to me, like, so like Nirvana, like, okay, like it's like if you think about all these bands and who their like sort of godfathers are in like rock, right? Like, so you think of Nirvana, like to me, I feel like the Beatles are like
the Meat Puppets.
Yeah. Like I feel like there's like a kind of, there's a lineage, right? Like, and then you talk about like Pearl Jam, and it's definitely the Stones and other bands like that, right? Like you think about like, you know, Green Day, it's like Ramones, right? Like you think about, but this band, like to me, like I feel like is one of the few bands from that time where like the DNA like starts with the Beach Boys.
I mean, I think it's hard to have that kind of vocal harmony, even if it is with yourself, and not have a direct Beach Boys comparison.
They're
Right?
like referencing the Beach Boys all over the place on this record, and like there's
the album art. The album art. The cover art was from some obscure greatest hits from like a truck stop.
Yeah.
And it's like my brain wants to fill in what that image looks like because I think I've seen it before, but at the same time, it's so general that, of course, I think I've seen it before.
Right. Like, there's other stuff throughout there too, like that song. We can talk about later. That song in the garage, and there's a bunch of other like
made my EP cut.
Yeah, mine too.
I cannot wait to find out how similar our EP.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I think for me, like I'm actually I think I can probably figure it out for you, Ryan. But I'm more interested in hearing Jenny's because like it's gonna. I think it might shock me. Well, we'll see. Teaser.
Toma, like the thing that like. All right, so the thing that I most associate with you and your sister both from this time frame, and I say that like with the thought of like it was a few years. It's punk music, like
right, yeah.
No, you guys like. So I was telling Alonso this the other day. So our early exposure to punk music was a friend of ours that I remember. Yeah, I remember from like kindergarten, and he went away for a while and came back and like some sort of punk rock Johnny Appleseed brought us like this entire world that started with like bootleg Nirvana CDs, like Alcesticide, the Alcesticide.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that world existed until he started hammering on how good some of that stuff was.
Yeah.
But then he also brought like the Screeching Weasels and like some really
like a lot of California punk.
Yeah, Operation Ivy, like a lot of stuff that like there was that shit didn't even show up on 120 Minutes. Like I defy anyone to dig through these tapes and find any time I would have seen these guys.
Yeah.
But then I moved to Moorfield and started going to school with you guys regularly after dipping my toe in the water early. And you guys were on like I remember NoFX and Epitaph Records. Like you guys were on the like punk rock sampler, Punkorama, maybe the first album I borrowed from the Toma household.
I had kind of a direct pipeline, and it was just random. Speaking of Green Day speaking, even in 8th grade, I went to the National Spelling Bee, and I was wearing a Green Day shirt there, which is like classic me. There's like a bunch of very very studious nerds, and here I am like in my Dookie shirt with like a little like turtle on it. And my mom is sick, really, and I'm like, so some other random guy was there who also was wearing a Green Day shirt. So instantly we were like, yo. And then I just had like a pen pal thing going with him, and he was like mailing me all these like cassette tapes of like Rancid, and because he lives in San Francisco, and so he was he was like going to the clubs and like recording this shit on his like or whatever it was he was doing. Would just mail them to me, and so I had this like really lucky opportunity that would never have existed otherwise at all, obviously, to just like get exposed to like all the stuff that was then coming out. And this was like what 1995 out of like, San Francisco punk scene. So I took a hard detour, like I like went like deep into like the punk stuff for a couple years, and that time I was pretty tuned out of other stuff, but I had that going on instead.
I think I had maybe had a class with your sister, and then got turned on to the punk stuff through her, and then found out that you were into the punk stuff and already had classes with you. So I think that kind of became my in to us hanging out, and it was just like, holy shit, not only the bands that I know and no one else knew about, but like you have all these other like albums that I've never even thought existed. Like
To all you young fuckers out there, right? Like,
Here we go.
Like, you understand? Like back then, like so
there was no internet.
There was no internet, and but like just the preciousness of like new music or different music.
Two radio stations where you may hear distortion on the guitar that you're hearing, and that was it for us.
I got NPR and I got Weld, which was bluegrass.
You didn't get the Q? You didn't get the Q 94?
Hell no. No, the mountains were in the way, man.
Dude, I have fond memories of that.
I had family that was honestly not far from your parents' place in Milam. They were further towards Moorfield, but like I remember there was a point where you like went on the other side of that range and you lost all hope of rock and roll on the radio.
That's true. And that struggle's fucking real, y'all, because it was you couldn't even back in the day you had to like wait by the radio until your favorite song came on and then rush to like hit record if you ever wanted to hear it again.
I think that's how I got sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, if you didn't even have the radio to do that, like you were SOL. Like, where's that coming from?
Yeah. I think that's how I got. So I try and think of the first time I listened to any kind of like hip hop or rap music, and like Yo MTV Raps was certainly an angle, but I think maybe one of the first was like maybe a Will Smith song on the radio. And having to record like Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff, it was like Nightmare on My Street or whatever. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like that horror angle, and it was something that I have no idea how that made it on the radio.
So I mean, I feel like for me, I almost never recorded anything off the radio. I think basically between the two of us, because remember I had the boombox with the tape deck, right? So they had two tapes.
Had two.
The two
like
tape
the first
decks and the CD player on top. So like I dubbed a whole I dubbed a
your
whole.
Your cousin hooked you up with a bunch of tapes you weren't into.
Pink Floyd, Marley.
Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. I think like the next time hopefully you see your cousin at some point. I have a lot of thanking to do for my exposure.
My cousin also gave me these like all these tapes which were dubs of Beatles vinyls too. Like, yeah, no, she was awesome. All right, hold on, wait, back to this shit.
Stop tangent. Reverse.
Back to this shit. No, I mean, I think it is important to give the context because like this was like 94, 95. Like, just people don't understand how like music is ubiquitous and like it's just everywhere and it's disposable. Like back then, it was just not. That wasn't the case. It was like precious.
Yeah, but we say that and like, so one of the things we wanted to talk about are like any kind of memories or like I don't have anything strongly tied to this. Is like maybe there was a moment or two for some of the other tracks, not like Buddy Holly. Maybe some of the latter ones that I had like some sort of pensive emotional moment around, but not anything that was habitual.
This wasn't my jam. But I remember that. I remember when I was a freshman, and I was on the tennis team. We went on like road trips. There was this dude. I'm not gonna name his name. There was this dude who was like, he was let's say he had a lot of power over what got played in the van when we were going on road trips. And like he was like super Christian, so like most of the shit that was played was like Michael W. Smith and like some, just some like, just bad shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, for whatever reason, this Blue album was played on those trips. So I wasn't listening to the lyrics. I didn't have any deep moments. It's just like kind of like it was playing when we were like on road trips. You know what
Sure. I mean, I think that was. So, like, one of the things I was reading was talking about how Rivers Cuomo's feelings for Buddy Holly was, like, it's kind of kitschy. I don't know if this is really a track for us. I think Rick Ocasek, like, apparently he pushed for it pretty hard to be recorded, and I mean, he was right. It's super, and the sales of this album are based almost solely off of that song.
It's super catchy, and the video was like super clever.
Yeah.
All right, you want to get into
Spike Jones?
You want to get into like the track by track?
Yeah.
Let's start with let's start with My Name Is Jonas. First track.
So, like, that is a fantastic album opening. Like, that cleanly picked progression at the very beginning into the distortion it's a perfect opener.
Right.
Somewhere like halfway through, not as into it as I was at the beginning, but yeah, it was a great opener.
There's a lot of their songs on this album that like start like that, right? Like a kind of like acoustic like intro, and then it goes into like it's like the loud, quiet, loud thing, right? Like the Pixies type of deal, right? Where and I think it was just like popular around then, that whole the way they arrange those songs. So the one thing I did some research on this song. The one thing I found out is that like this is possibly a reference to this book called The Giver. I think the main character is named Jonas, and then apparently in the second verse, Rivers names his sled, and the way like at the end of the book, spoiler, Jonas gets away in the sled. Did you guys ever read that book, The Giver? Was it just me?
Hey, I don't think I did. If I did, then it was absent.
It's like.
But if he named a sled, though, I like my mind immediately went to Rosebud.
See, you're high-minded, dude. Like this is like you're on
No.
You're on that Citizen Kane shit.
I will not take those accusations, Alonso.
Yeah. So okay, it was a book that I read when I was a kid. It's a YA book. I think it's written by Lois Lowry. And like the premise is like it's like they don't really tell you a lot, and you can kind of tell it's a sort of dystopian world where like everyone's lives are very, very controlled. And then again, spoiler. I mean, fuck you if you're like pissed off about a spoiler in 2020 for a book that came out like 30 years ago. Okay, so but it turns out that there's like it turns out that like it's like a kind of like Soylent Green type scenario minus the actual eating, where like it's a society that has a ritual around sacrificing the elderly, and everyone's emotions get sort of suppressed by this like drugs that they take, and like you can't see color in this world, right? And then like the way he starts realizing he's different is that he starts being able to see color. Anyway, it's really, when I read it, it was kind of cool, and like definitely fit into a lot of the other stuff I dug back in the day.
So, about back to the song though. No, and not that it was, that's fine. But I just have a point I wanted to throw in there about it, which is that I am not much of a verbal listener. Like when I listen to music, I honestly most of the time don't even know what the lyrics are, and I don't think about what they're referencing or anything like that. I'm just like there for the music mostly. It's a shortcoming of mine. But what I do love about this, even though this song is not necessarily, it's not my favorite on the album, it's like, it's fine, it's good. But what I do like about it is that throughout the whole thing, like even when you have the quiet parts, even when you have like the other parts, there's a consistent, it keeps that same beat the whole time. So like even, like if you're headbanging to it lightly in your car on your 3-hour commute, I mean, I don't know who would be doing that, but it's like it never misses a beat. Even through all those changes, it keeps the same exact like rhythm the whole time, and I appreciate the shit about that one, even though it's not my favorite.
I think it's actually a great transition to the next song. The next song being No One Else. I'm with you in that, especially back then, I didn't really care too much about the lyrics. Or I didn't really think about them too much, at least.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this next song, No One Else, I remember enjoying. And I know the lyrics, like, because it's a catchy song, so you remember the lyrics. right? And then like I'm re-listening to this album.
I had that same experience.
Yeah, I think we all did.
That did not age super well.
I mean, it's dudes like I don't know if it's supposed to be communicating something about insecurity and control. It doesn't feel that deep. Yeah, the lyrics are a problem.
I don't think you can make. I also don't think you can make an argument that this was like supposed to be like sarcastic or like he's playing a role or whatever. You know.
I think that's an argument that like maybe there's a lot of like early Weezer like that people try and argue is kind of like sarcastic or tongue in cheek or whatever, and like. I don't know. The tone doesn't really change, so it's hard for me to pick up on what is and isn't, and it doesn't seem deep enough to really be a sarcastic examination of that. But I don't know. Maybe it is.
I don't know. So
I mean,
just
it grooves. It grooves in a kind of way that I can like, I can kind of turn off that part, and it definitely grooves. But that like the lyrics are just like, I don't know.
Just a reiterate.
I think it's honestly just a relic. That might be mostly just a relic of the time because I mean, I was thinking about this earlier when I was giving another listen through. Is that I'm not gonna quibble with like the general like like wouldn't it be fucking awesome if there was a person who just was like super interested in me and I was all they did. Like we all get that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But the way that it's phrased I think is very couched in 1990s terms when no one thought twice about that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I feel like a little bit better vocabulary and maybe we could get the sarcasm, but like it just like it feels like pensive insecurity at its like worst.
I don't think it was sarcastic. I think it actually fits in really well with like like it's like the alpha nerd that like
this is the proto alpha nerd.
I think this is the proto alpha, for sure. Like this is like I don't think it's an accident. Like, like these like dudes that like, and here's the thing, like for me, right? Like when you're 14 or 15 or whatever, and you're just like overwhelmed by all these like feelings, and you don't fucking know what to do with them, right? Like, it definitely rang true of like. But
they're 24.
That's true. That's
true. They're 24, and certainly at 24, I was maybe yet to be human, but I wasn't that either.
Not that.
Yeah.
Not that. I mean, just to reiterate from the chorus, I want a girl who will laugh for no one else. When I'm away, she puts her makeup on the shelf. When I'm away, she never leaves the house.
Yeah. I mean, it's straight up insecurity in like the most like detrimental way possible. It's really just like
bad.
It's like, look, I feel shitty about me, and I know that like the moment you don't have to look me in the eyes, you're gonna try and find happiness because obviously you can't find me. So, if we could just lock you in a room, I'm gonna be on tour. Just
agreed. Yeah, I think it's like good. It is catchy though. It does slap.
It is fucking catchy. Like yeah. It's really like there's a groove. It's good. If you were to take the lyrics out and replace them with like, Adobe autofill gibberish, I'd be nodding just as hard. Probably harder.
There's a podcast. You take dated song lyrics that are no longer cool and you replace them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. The clearance on that would probably be like it's like Song Exploder, but for problematic ideas.
Yes.
We're just gonna explode those the fuck out of here, but then just tear apart some.
There's that. Do you guys know that Steely Dan song? I think it's called like "Hey 17" or something.
Yeah. Hey 19.
Hey 19.
Yeah. Hey 19. Yeah.
I was making it worse than it was, but like, but that song like.
She was 19, Alonso.
Yeah, dude, sorry.
very.
Sorry, Donald.
They didn't just wait for consent age. They gave it a couple years past. Because that's all you need. You just need a couple years, and then you're making adult decisions.
I think that song is fucking awesome, and but it is a little cringy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about "The World Has Turned and Left Me Here"? Track 3.
I like the chorus. The chorus sticks with me. Just that, like, it's a very simple progression. It's like, here we go. It's a very Ramones kind of presentation in Weezer, in that it's this, like, guitar solos aside, simple, straightforward melody that, like, it grooves or doesn't groove. And the chorus of that grooves hard. The rest of it is like, I've forgotten it already, and I listened to it 20 minutes ago.
So, yeah, Jenny, thoughts?
I like that it's got, like, it's a very I don't know if reliable is the word I want to use, but it's got, like, if it's just on, you're just like, sure, but, like, it's groovable, it's on while it's on. But I'm with Lewis. It's like when it's not on, it's just like,
Is this a? Did you guys catch the jerk off reference?
I did not. Please elaborate.
So there's, in the first verse, it's, "I just made love with your sweet memory 1,000 times in my head."
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Can I also just say that I did read those lyrics, and I didn't go straight to he was touching himself, so it might be work
right.
on.
I'd also like to say I forgot that was in this song.
Yeah.
I remember hearing it and forgot it was.
For sure.
That's how this song writes.
Well, I mean, I feel like the album is kind of that, right? Like, I mean, it's not leading with the lyrics.
I mean, I don't want to, I know we're talking about this album, but, like, spoiler alert, that's just Weezer. Like, they figured out this groove early. They've deviated with Pinkerton a little bit, if we're going to talk about that. But then, like, post Harvard, I guess, like, Rivers Cuomo is like, no, it turns out, like, we had the formula, and we're just going to follow the formula. And much like a Cake album, it's like, this is a Weezer song.
That's what it's going to be.
It slaps, and then it doesn't, and then it does again. And, it's like, if Weezer and Cake, like, could just get along, I think they really do it well touring. It's too bad that they have a knife fight every time they see each other.
Is that true? I wasn't aware. Okay.
Not true. Making it up.
All right. Okay. Fact check alert. What about? So I love the outro of this song. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? That's the. Do you believe what I sing now? Do you remember that part? Like, that's a little nice counter melody that actually works really well and kind of takes the song to the end.
Yeah, and I think so. Like, this is an example of when that works well. I think, in my opinion, that doesn't work well when they try to do something similar with "Only in Dreams," the closing track.
Okay, we're gonna get to that, dude.
Yeah,
I have some good shit for that one.
I can't wait. This is my excitement face.
Okay, all right. Buddy Holly, track 4. What else can you say? I mean, I don't know what the fuck else can you say.
Do you have to?
I just want to add, though, that, listening to this again now after having, done a little reading on it and having the whole Rick Ocasek connection, which I don't know if I knew that before, and I might have, but if I did, I forgot, honestly.
Yeah.
But when I listened to Buddy Holly, like, that's the one that, like, strongly smacks of the Cars the most. I mean, it's got the keyboard-ish, like, melody.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like re-listening to it with that knowledge. It was just like, wow, how did I not even put that together, like, on my own immediately, right? But it's very Rick. It feels like there's Rick all over it.
For sure. It also has that, like, much like the Cars, has that classic, like, this is rock from 20 years ago vibe. I feel like that the Cars do a really good job of high production, but like sounding like 1950s.
Dude, I love
this
the
feels
Cars.
the same way.
I'm just a complete stan for the Cars, man. Like, just like basically every record I play for the kids. The kids love it
because the Cars are perfect.
Yeah,
like, it's like
I have my own Cars playlist that I made Chris listen to. I was like, you youngins don't know.
you young motherfucker.
About the Cars.
Right?
If only you knew the difficulty in waiting for this to play on the radio.
Right. Yeah. So to me, like, definitely this song has like, and like the video, it's Spike Jonze before he did all the movies, and it's a really clever idea. So one thing I did want to bring up is, do you guys remember the video to Nirvana's In Bloom?
Yeah. So this is the one where they're on the fake car show.
They're on the fake Ed Sullivan show. Like
fake Ed Sullivan.
So it's like, do you remember like, you know, the Beatles Ed Sullivan appearance, right? And it was just like Ed Sullivan going, the Beatles, and you know, girls like screaming, and they're on the stage. So the In Bloom video, which we'll watch in the after party, is like a black and white Nirvana, like dressed like the Beatles essentially, dressed like a band from back then, on the Ed Sullivan show, and they play In Bloom, which is like a hard, crazy ass song.
Right. Which is why when they do it, it works in a very specific way, because they show you everything going smoothly and everything falling apart.
Yes.
And they start like stitching those two together.
Yeah.
If Weezer would have torn apart the diner, that Nirvana's video, sarcastic. Sure.
Weezer's video, sincere. Like, I mean, they fit in fucking happy days.
Sure. You know, nobody does an homage to Happy Days.
Yeah,
even
the Fonz fucking does a dance at the end, and like everyone cheers. Like, it's like, it makes sense.
So one of the things I was reading is that originally the line, "Ooh, you look just like Ginger Rogers."
Yeah, that's right.
And I dance just like Fred Astaire. And you know what? Like, it feels more specific to like the thing they had going on, like with their friend.
Yeah.
But interchangeable for me.
Right.
Could go either way. Don't have any.
Doesn't matter
like,
to me.
Don't care.
I mean, he does look like Buddy Holly. I mean, he wears the same Buddy Holly glasses, and like
he does. So I guess we have a visual reference to what he's talking about. But if he was saying about somebody looking just like Ginger Rogers,
I mean,
that's actually a 2020 version of that song. You know.
Yeah. The hipster version is to reference someone that makes you go to Google immediately.
I don't know. Probably for these young motherfuckers, like, this is like, you know, like, this is the third time I'm talking about these young people.
Yeah, it's
but
getting pathetic.
Can we work the word whippersnappers in?
Yeah. Can you open the blinds and yell at someone to get off?
Yeah, get off my property. Yeah.
There's no one on my property, man.
Get off my land. But yeah, anyway, I don't know that there's anything else to say about this song. Like, I like the video's cool. I remember watching the video as a kid. It was popular.
I do kind of like the vibe of, you know, as much as I just said that I don't really pay attention to lyrics, and I don't, but I read them in order to participate in this whole thing. I actually did some homework. And I think that I really kind of appreciate the whole idea of, you know, the whole, like, I maybe there's a better idea or understanding of what the whole deal is with these people, the guys who are hassling them in the beginning. I don't know what the hell that's about, but I do appreciate the very quick pivot to but who gives a shit? Like, let's just like go be weird. I appreciate that. I do.
That may be the only redeeming factor for me. Still, it just like, this is a great example of the Weezer's kind of Weezer and the Eagles sit in kind of the same headspace for me, in that, like, I don't know, they're fine. Like, they're fine. If someone if I'm somewhere and someone plays them, there's a good chance I'll know the lyrics to the song. There's a good chance I'll enjoy it in that moment. There's also a good chance I will not revisit that on my own, just because that, like, to hear Buddy Holly in a group wherever I am nowadays, when I hear Buddy Holly, it's great. There's my Buddy Holly fix. Let's move on.
What's
that's
the context?
That's the meme where it's just like, you know, me and my teens, like, oh, like the radio's playing my song. Like me in my 30s, oh, this grocery store is playing my song.
This is the world we live in.
I have heard more quality tunes on Sheetz Radio than I have on U92. Like that's just true.
Which, well, yeah.
I miss Sheetz, dude. They don't have a convenience store remotely close to that shit out here, man.
Jake was all stoked because Sheetz was playing Brian Jonestown's Massacre.
What? See, that's like, okay, is that like determined by like a cool like Sheetz manager, or is that
I don't know?
Because like
that must doing all right.
No, Corbett's not playing that shit.
Just to plug more podcasts, there is an episode of Reply All where they try and search down a cover of a Christmas song that this guy did that he randomly heard like on the speakers in like a grocery store or gas station. And there are multiple businesses behind who actually puts what on the radio for those. Like there was a contract for a company that contracted a company that provides a playlist.
So I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Jenny or Ryan. Like, but I basically learned my lesson and I've stopped doing this. So what happens is I'll go in a store, right? And I'll be whatever doing. Okay, yeah, pre-pandemic, right, or whatever. Like this bullshit.
Yeah, I'll go in a store.
Right. In theory.
The normal thing.
Theoretically. Right. And so and then there'll be a song they'll be playing that I'll dig and I'll think, oh, that's kind of obscure. That's interesting. Right? And then when I'll go to the counter to pay, I'll be like, oh, that's a cool song. Assuming that like, I don't know, the person behind the counter maybe has like some say over what the fuck's playing. And 9 times out of 10, this is what I hear. Oh, yeah, it's just Spotify or it's just Pandora or whatever.
Sure.
And I've just been disappointed so many times now, like just over the last like 10 years, where I'm just like, okay, like I'm not even gonna fucking go there, you know.
I mean, there's the other side of that where like I'm in a Whole Foods and the cashier wants to have a discussion about, you know, even the cars, right? Like. Yeah. He wants to have a discussion about, like, for some reason, there's a guy at Whole Foods. He is your cashier. Like, if you were a little bit more rich, you might be able to pay him to just pop place to place and be your cashier.
Be
so
my
you
guy.
could have that.
We could have that conversation.
Yeah.
But does he control the programming though?
Absolutely not.
Because so what it was like the last time this happened to me, it was like I was in some store in Albuquerque, and you know Albuquerque is a lot of like small businesses, locally owned. It's not like super corporate, right? Like there's a lot of. So anyway, I can't even remember where it was, right? But I hear this song by Television. It's like 70s awesome like kind of proto punk bands Television.
Like Marquee Moon or something.
Marquee Moon, yeah, is Elevation. That's the song I heard on there. And nice. It's a fucking amazing song, and to me, it's like if you know that song and you think that song's cool, like we're probably gonna be cool, right? Like, we're probably gonna be friends.
Yeah, and then you try and bond with your.
I'm just like, oh, hey, that's a super cool song, and that was Pandora. It's like, all right, okay, here's my fucking money.
Yeah, because they're just trying to.
I'm gonna stop trying to make a human connection with anybody. Like
they're trying to do a shitty job, and they don't want you.
The machines are just fucking running everything, so just assume that like there's no heartbeat behind anything anymore.
I mean, look, they have a heartbeat, but for 8 hours a day, they have clowns like you walk up to their register.
Clowns, dude, that's a good song, man. Like, you know what? If they had good taste, they'd be like, well, you know, I do like that song, like, and it's cool. I didn't have anything to do with it, but I do like that song. That would be an acceptable answer to me.
Fair, though you didn't come to them with, I like Television. Are you familiar with Television? You said, did you put the song on the grocery store radio?
No. It wasn't a grocery store. It wasn't like a fucking Whole Foods. It wasn't your guy or whoever the fuck that guy is.
Sure.
Your guy.
It wasn't your dude.
It's my guy. I got a guy. I got a guy. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, right. My guy.
Yeah, my guy. It's my Whole Foods cashier music guy.
I mean, but what I'm actually curious about is, and ask your guy, your respective guys, or your non-guys, as the case may be, but ask them next time. They're like, is it the same playlist every day? That's what I want to know. Or is it just like completely random and switched up? Like, if you're hearing the same shit every day and you haven't, after, I don't know, 4 months, 10 months, years of working there, haven't come around to this television song, then fuck you, honestly, right?
Yeah,
also, and public service announcement, when you find out that they have nothing to do with it, just be like, hey, at least it's not the fucking Goo Goo Dolls. Like, at least you get television. You could get way worse than television.
Oh, it could be so much worse.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Much.
I thought that was actually pretty cool.
Bryan Adams, John Mellencamp, any of these, they could be pumping into your ears in the middle of the grocery store.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I just got chills thinking about the being assaulted with Mellencamp everywhere, man.
Yeah, not even the cougar stuff.
John Cougar. All right.
Like the post-cougar Mellencamp.
All right. What about Undone, the sweater song? I think this was the first Weezer song I heard back in the day. If I'm being honest.
Sure.
Yeah, and I always was very confused by it because it starts out with just like a conversation between two people. And I really was confused about that because it wasn't like lyrics that I was just kind of ignoring. It was like, well, there's a party conversation, and I'm not sure why this is here exactly. And I always found it very mildly intriguing just because I didn't understand what the fuck I was supposed to take away from it exactly. Then, you kind of get past it. It's like, fine, like this is just like being goofy for goof's sake or whatever. Right. And, I just always loved it. It was so nonsensical and it never made any sense to me. And I like that about it. Plus, it's the sing-along song of the album, probably.
I think you're right. Like, there's just something about it.
You can just yell that, about your sweater, and everyone's like, yeah, no, I hear you.
There's just something about it.
Sweaters, man.
And apparently the conversation stuff, that's like the third or fourth iteration of what they were trying to do with it. Yeah. Apparently, I can't remember which of them was tasked with it, but the idea was to play good self-talk, bad self-talk examples in either ear, so you kind of have this contradictory psychological view.
See, that would have been cool.
And then, so it turns out the way the guy did it, whichever band member was responsible for it, again, I'm not your encyclopedia, Google's your friend. It apparently he had sampled some 200 different movies and cut it down to 15 different lines of dialogue, and then Geffen was just no, we're not clearing any of that. You guys are just gonna have to record the dialogue yourself and just have a conversation. And it completely fell apart. Now it just sounds like muddled party conversation followed by the sweater song.
I mean, look, I like this song a lot. It slaps, again, just I feel like pretty much every song on this album does. There's just not much to this song.
No.
It's a great chorus. It's an amazing chorus. Then it's a party conversation. Then it's lyrics I'm me be, goddamn, I am. I mean, it's just shit like that. And
so, yeah. Well, in a way, doesn't that kind of make it an empty vessel that you can put whatever
It is. Oh, okay.
There's absolutely nothing fucking there.
All right, all right.
The most that I could ever to put into that party combo was oh, maybe this is just a commentary on every terrible, for us introverts, every terrible experience where we've been stuck having someone talk at us, and I just really wish we weren't there, because that's kind of what it feels like. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's totally mindless. Even if it wasn't meant to be mindless, to me, it's mindless, and it's just like the goofiest shit. So you can just
totally.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, yeah. I think, was that a Sartre reference? Is that like a Being and Nothingness reference? Like empty.
No, listen, I don't, again, do not accuse me of.
Yeah, I'm ascribing well, you mentioned Citizen Kane before, so, I'm just trying to, like, be,
fair. Maybe I asked for that. No, I mean, it really wasn't. It was just kind of like this, whenever I hear it, I'm just kind of like, like a little bit, the sweater song. I fucking love the sweater song. It's so ridiculous. I've never understood it fully, but it's like, I'm happy it's on. But you're right. No, there's nothing to it.
You have but here's the difference, I think, for you, versus for my memory of the song, is that you have an awesome, specific memory from childhood. From
That's true.
You have an awesome memory.
Neighborhood, yeah.
And, I feel like, like that probably takes it over the top. For me, it's catchy as fuck. I mean, just like, but again, I mean, spoiler, this did not make my EP cut. And it didn't, just because, I don't know, I don't have enough to fucking glom onto, right? Like, there's just nothing there for me, right?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I have never, and for the record, I still, to this day, I have wondered for many years, like, whenever it's come on, just kind of idly, like, why the fuck are we unraveling a sweater? Like, is it cold outside? Does he need that sweater? Like, that's fucking inconsiderate. Like, what is going on in this song, honestly?
The sweater is the metaphor for
his mental health? I don't know.
Yeah.
For life. No, I'm not saying, look, I don't need some sort of, like, epic metaphor for this song. Or it's actually going to reveal something meaningful, but it doesn't even have a concept. Like, there's not even it's just a chorus, which is cool.
Yeah. It's barely a chorus, though, isn't it? Like,
it's two lines. It's two lines.
It's a Weezer song. It's a chorus and 2 lines.
And honestly, I think that's kind of what I like about it, is that it's just fucking so nonsensical and ridiculous that it almost has to be just endearing in that way.
Yeah,
fair enough.
It's like, it's perfectly what it is. Like, there's not another... It's not competing with another song for a thing.
No.
It's just a fucking sweater song.
Yeah, it's a song about a sweater.
We haven't even bothered to put a full line of lyrics in this line of lyrics.
If you want to destroy my sweater.
Or maybe.
There are 2-word sentences in this song.
Pull on the thread.
And it does not give a fuck.
Pull the string. Pull the string.
Yeah. It's a Bela Lugosi reference.
No one knows what's happening here, and apparently that wasn't important. I don't know.
Okay.
That's fine.
Moving on.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the Ramones wrote songs about sniffing.
But that's a concept. That's a concept.
And then they wrote a song about Carbona nut glue, right? So, like, let's move on from glue and sniff something else.
Right.
Like,
that's something.
It is something. But it's also just the simplicity of it and the perfection of what it is.
All right, Surf Wax America. I'm just going to go right out and say it. It's my least favorite song on the record.
I don't like it.
Honestly, like, I find it depressing that it sounds the least like a surf rock song and an opportunity to make it. But it was definitely one of the songs that made my EP cut, and the sweater song didn't. I'd rather listen to it than Buddy Holly or. And maybe that's an exposure ratio. But as I was going through removing songs from the playlist that was the album, I felt like that one stayed. I don't know. It's just bouncy enough that I enjoy it. I don't necessarily like spend a lot of time thinking about it, but in terms of listening to the song, I enjoy it.
It's like the most cowpunk song, I think, of the album by far.
Yeah. And it's still a disappointing variation, but
and I actually think the lyrics to the song are actually good, or interesting, right?
They're okay.
I mean, they communicate some sort of idea, right? Like, hey, you're gonna do your lame ass corporate bullshit, and I'm gonna go surfing. Yeah, that's something.
And then the undertow is gonna drag me out forever. right? Like
right.
here's the song. I'm gonna surf and you're gonna drive to work and
Right.
your car's gonna run out of gas and my board's gonna be fine, but oh fuck, the undertow got me and now I'm doomed.
Well, yeah, it's got to have some pathos. But see, that's something, man. Like I feel like that's something. It's just not like memorable to me. Like the melody is like really, it's like very not memorable.
You know what it didn't feel like? It didn't feel like melancholic and insecure.
Yes.
And I felt like that was a refreshing break.
See, I felt like it didn't
album.
have it. I felt like that made it an outlier.
Yeah, and I think that's why it made my EP.
That's a fair point. I feel like he at least took a position in this one.
Yeah.
If like Best Coast covered this, it would make perfect sense.
Right.
To me.
If Best Coast covered
it is a poppy, like light. It has a little bit of pathos, but it's
or like Waves. I could totally see Waves like cover the song. Yeah, like
I mean, is this the best version of the song? Probably not. But is it in 2020? Is it than Buddy Holly for me? It is. Dude, and that may just be. I've just heard Buddy Holly too many fucking times. Dude.
Listen, Buddy Holly's not on my cut. So like, So like, I don't know if anyone's defending Buddy Holly here.
No. I'm just saying, like, in terms of like, I guess I'm trying to just point out the fact that like, there's something refreshing about this track. That if I'm gonna listen to this album, it's gonna be one of those songs that I enjoy.
Okay. Jenny, any thoughts? Any additional thoughts?
Not really. I'm kind of with you on this one, man. It's nowhere near one I'm like actively trying to keep around. It just doesn't. I mean, Lewis makes valid points. I don't disagree with any of those, and I think they're fair. But at the same time, it just doesn't do a lot for me.
Okay, say it ain't so.
That is fair.
Say it ain't so.
I love the solo of Say It Ain't So.
Say It Ain't So. Yeah, so that's track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Track 7, Say It Ain't So. Things I learned about this song that I didn't really know before re-listening to this album. It's about his alcoholic father and stepfather, and I know that those lyrics are in there, and I've said them, and I've sung along to them, but I wasn't really paying super much attention. Like, there's a reference to a Heineken in the fridge, and like I missed all that. So like I think this is like maybe the most sort of like, you know, real shit like people go through as like kids, you know, with their parents sometimes. Song.
The way I understood it is that he chorus for Say It Ain't So and didn't have anything else from the song. And then remembered going through an experience where he saw, like beer or something in his fridge. And it reminded him of his father's alcoholism.
Yeah.
And that made him reflect on his stepfather's drinking and kind of feel the inevitability of like the alcoholism. That's the way he explained it. Man. Yeah, I would, but I've been doing that all.
Cheers! I've got like a one last drink here. So on Genius.com on this song, this is the only song where Rivers himself actually makes a comment on the lyrics, right? So
on Genius?
Yeah, on Genius.com. So like the first verse is somebody's hiney is crowding my icebox, somebody's cold one is giving me chills. Right? So Rivers writes, funny factoid, Pat actually helped write the first line. I asked him what was a 2-syllable word for refrigerator, not expecting a reply, and he immediately said icebox. Just completely randomly.
That's some crossword level shit.
So
my grandpa Toma actually used to refer to them as ice boxes. Yeah. Fun fact.
So
I've never heard anyone else do it, just him.
So I was listening to the song with the kids, right? And like I did some like, you know, inspired air guitar, right? Just like, you know, on the, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about in the chorus, right? right? And like I think, God, that riff, it's so simple, but damn, it hits hard, man. Because like the song is like really, like I was thinking about it. You know, it kind of reminded me of like, it sounds weird, but it kind of reminded me of that Chili Peppers song "Under the Bridge."
Yeah.
Do you know how like the kind of beginning part is like this like really like not distorted, sort of mellow, melancholy kind of thing, but then that thing makes it not under the bridge, right? Like,
right. Yeah, I think that this one is the closest that he comes to sounding like he and or the song, music or the lyrics, come to like just appearing actively angry or resentful. Like there's actually something like there as opposed to just being like, eh.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the lyrics or that punctuated riff, but I kind of agree. Also, you know, like that, like two note, like downstroke punch, and then the classic like bend fill in between the crunch.
Yeah.
It just like there's an emotive component that just drives it up in a way that the rest of the song doesn't.
I mean, I think this is like to me like one of the most like emotionally intense songs on the record. And it still kind of does it, you know, like, and it's like one of the more kind of well known and popular songs on here. But fuck if it doesn't just it just sounds, it still sounds good to me. It still sounds good to me. And like, you know, I think at the beginning I said this album is heavy. I forgot how heavy it is. Like I don't know. It was in the 90s, so like there was of course other shit that was heavier, but it's a lot heavier than I think it should be. And I love the contrast of like the falsettos and the harmonies, but then like just these crunchy fucking riffs, right? That sound crazy distorted. I feel like this like song kind of encapsulates like the best of this album for me. Guess what? It made my EP.
Sure.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on Say It Ain't So?
No.
Okay. In the Garage. I got some good shit for this one, but thoughts on In the Garage?
Yeah, I enjoy In the Garage. It made my EP.
Okay. What about you, Jenny?
Well, I want to hear.
Okay, so all right. Okay, I'll talk. In the Garage, I've got my Dungeon Master's Guide. I've got my 12-sided die. Okay, I was not super into D&D. I did play D&D some. I wasn't super into D&D mostly because like I had a Dungeon Master that was like definitely one of those like alpha nerds that like would use D&D as like a way to sort of exert power that he did not have in life otherwise. And so like that was a big turnoff. And I've never really been into sort of the fantasy, the medieval fantasy, right? But I did play some D&D growing up. I've got Kitty Pryde. I've got and Nightcrawler too, right? And so, you know, me and Ryan, we were both super into the X-Men at that time. Like we were buying all the X-Men comics and just like going nuts with that. Then he's talking about Kiss. So just I hate Kiss. I hate Kiss. Like I think I'd rather listen to just about anything else than Kiss. Like
sure.
But I understand the reference, right? Like in other words, like kind of simple, carefree, like rock and guitar and whatever. I get that. I really hate Kiss though. Just let me reiterate that.
I mean, you know, I guess another thing that I read is that I guess the band he was in ahead of Weezer was like they called it like Dokken but less interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so like the Kiss thing makes a lot of sense in that. And yeah, I think the thing you're getting at is kind of my main enjoyment of In the Garage. Certainly like it's one of the songs I can connect with my teenage self at the time, in that like I created this happy little space that has like the posters of the things I'm interested in and the books I like to read. I like the safe little, I can enjoy these things no matter who thinks how they're weird in whatever way.
right.
They make me happy, and this is happy space.
Right, and like I would write a lot. Like I would write a lot as a kid, like little stories and things like that. And like there's another lyric. It's like, I write these stupid words. I play these stupid songs, and like for me, like, like it was kind of crazy back then. Like, so this is a song I wish that I would have gotten into. And for me, like, this is a song like I feel like back then I would have emotionally connected with like way more than anything. And it reminds me of this Beach Boys song called In My Room, which is like one of my favorite Beach Boys songs. And it's the same concept, really.
Sure.
It's just like, and I think it might be one of the first times I've ever heard somebody refer to a space as safe. Right? Like, I feel safe in my garage.
Yeah.
And like,
He was ahead of his time, man.
In some way, yeah. In some way.
Yeah.
Like I definitely, you listen to the lyrics to this and like it's just like, yeah, this was written for me, even though like not some of the specific references don't like land exactly.
Sure.
I feel like it was very much written for me at the time.
So, another fun Weezer album fact. This song is the least abstracted from experience. This song is apparently written about the garage that they practiced and played in California ahead of recording the album, including just listing the posters on them. So, like, there's not really much abstraction put into the writing of, like, this is my safe and happy spot. It's more, this is the garage we're in. But it is, maybe more relatable in that weird abstracted idea because it's so specific. Whereas, I don't know, Say It Ain't So or the Sweater Song, right? We were talking about the abstraction and like amorphous nature of the Sweater Song. This one has that, but it's like there was no attempt at that at all. It's just straightforward, like, this is the poster on the wall and this is where we're playing. That's
So with that information,
it works. It's
so
good.
with that information, Jenny, what do you think? Does that color your opinion?
No. I mean, to an extent, I suppose. Like, I think it's useful to get like some takes on it because this is definitely one of those that for me is just kind of like it's there, and when it's on, I'm just like, sure, this is fine. It's fine. But otherwise, it's not sticking around. It's not super memorable. But I get what you're saying, though, and I think that I would probably have never come to that conclusion on my own. So,
well, I mean, I think it just like it's like the way that the Sweater Song connects with you, like emotionally, specifically. Like even though I don't know that I've ever paid attention to this song when it came out or around that time, but like later on, listening to it, and you're just like, oh yeah, that song was written for me. I probably should have listened to it or paid attention in some kind of way, right? Because that song is for me. Okay, what about A Holiday? Let's go
I just want to make a quick comment about how this one of all of them, I think that those multi-leveled the vocals are so 80s reminiscent of so many different bands. Like, it's very kind of like Queen almost in a way, but also Cars too. But it's just like that just stuck out so much when I re-listened to it that I was like, wow.
That part with Heartbeat where he's like,
and
it's like multi-layered.
And it is the most 80s sounding thing, like, by far, I think, on this album.
You know what? It's so funny that you mentioned that because it reminded me of like Def Leppard in some way.
Yes.
Like where it's just like heavy, but also like multi-layered vocals and like big production, big riff, big sound. For sure, yeah, I could totally see that connection.
I think that all of this, and thinking more today about like the fact that Rick Ocasek was involved. The one thing that I really kind of wish is that we could hear what it sounded like before, before he got his hands on it, before he started, working with it. I would love to hear a comparison between the two. So like, where was this at before,
Yeah.
So I think you can, actually, or at least some of it. Because like, I think it's on YouTube. If you look up the Kitchen Tapes, I think that was their demo that got them signed, and I think it has a bunch of these songs like in demo form.
Yeah, I've kind of thought that too, in that like it kind of, so to compare it to Dookie, Green Day has what, 2-3 albums before Dookie drops, and you get that it's a little bit more raw too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
It's like Kerplunk and 10,000 Smoothed Out Slappy Hours.
Right, correct.
So I remember that because I still enjoy that Green Day, and like there's like a purity of that sound in Green Day's like experience that like Dookie was highly produced, and it contained that, but it was like a more polished version. I feel like it does us a disservice in that we get introduced to Weezer with Rick Ocasek producing Weezer. It takes away this like I think that's always been my problem with Weezer. Is like I like a lot of bands that provide that same level of simplicity in terms of riff and lyric. You know what? Iggy Pop's writing like 21 words that are a Stooges song, right? Like the Ramones are like 100% fucking bar chords. Like, it's simple, but there's something about both of those that feels more like genuine and just relatable. Whereas like I feel like Weezer's Blue Album has those same components, but it's so perfectly produced that it came out like fine crystal the first time. And I feel like there's a disservice done for that. Not that I feel like any of them are like grungy people, or like I don't conflate them with the grunge movement in music.
Yeah.
But they have that perfectly polished sound that I'd like to hear it a little fuzzier.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I really sort of have that same, like, yeah, were Green Day's first albums like rough? Like, of course they were rough, but like they still have like, a special little place in my heart for like, oh, like, that's you didn't, not everything was like quite as well done, but it was like still it was very authentic, and we didn't really get that. You're right.
Okay, so look, I'm gonna go to Only in Dreams because I have something to read for you guys for Only in Dreams. Only in Dreams being the last song, track 10. It's like almost 8 minutes long. I do want to say something before I read this thing, which is the fucking bass line. I love that fucking bass line, man. The dum 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 dum. That is like, it could play forever to me. Like, it's so catchy and kind of ominous. The fact it's called Only in Dreams, like, I feel like maybe there's some kind of reference to In Dreams, the song by Roy Orbison, which is like amazing. Yeah. Even though they don't really have much to do with anything. Like, Roy Orbison does have like a kind of like sweet sort of like harmonies and beautiful voice and whatever, simple songs and stuff like that. But okay, so I found this thing that I found this write up on Only in Dreams that was written by a music critic, rock writer named Stephen Hayden, who like does like a lot of writing about the 90s, music in the 90s. All right, so he says, Weezer's Freebird. It's the traditional set closer. It has the long guitar solo at the end, and it's a song about desiring what you cannot have. Only Ronnie Van Zant made him the unattainable one, while Rivers Cuomo, of course, is the one who desires. The guitar solo in Only in Dreams is crafted to fit the structure of sex, or really masturbation, and orgasm, a slow rhythmic buildup that gets louder and faster and more ecstatic as it goes. The Only in Dreams solo is hardly the first guitar solo to be likened to whacking off, but the comparison fits the song thematically, rather than as a reductive shot at an unnecessary display of technical virtuosity. The Blue Album was a record made for people who preferred watching to doing, before the internet came along and turned everybody into watchers. What exactly were you watching in Only in Dreams? A guy not get the girl. It was better that way, because Cuomo's core audience of alienated teenage male virgins preferred the camaraderie of those who did not get the girl to actually getting the girl. Because what in the hell do you do with a girl? dude, that is fucking poetry. First off, and
Is it?
that is poetry. That is like I'm not sure I could say anything better than what he just said about the Blue Album, Weezer, about this song specifically.
I would like to fully endorse the phrase Weezer's Freebird. I love that.
Yeah.
I'll go double down on that one.
I feel like that's about where it stops for me, though. Like,
really?
I don't know. I feel like we've learned more about the reviewer than we have about the song reviewer.
Actually, so there's another piece. Let me just read the rest of this, which is like a quick personal anecdote. Okay. He says, quick personal anecdote. The best-looking guy in my group of friends back in my junior year of high school started dating this beautiful senior who could be reasonably described as out of his league. One day, while driving somewhere in his car, he played me a mix CD that she had made for him. Only in Dreams was the last track. I remember thinking to myself, this is an instance of life imitating art, because here's my friend dating this seemingly unattainable girl who subsequently made him a mix CD, culminating in a Weezer song about pining after an unattainable girl.
Except he was with the unattainable girl. It doesn't fit.
Hold on.
That narrative doesn't work.
Hold on. Except my friend was dating the girl. So why would she put Only in Dreams in the crucial anchor slot of the mix CD? Was this
about him?
Was this her way of foreshadowing their eventual breakup? Because it's sort of a weird song with which to end on an ostensibly romantic mix CD. Or did she just not care about lyrics? Looking back, I recognize that my friend wasn't the Rivers Cuomo in this scenario. I was. I was the watcher. Jesus, I am glad that was 20 years ago.
I really hope that this guy's life has worked out for him better than the way he felt in that.
I don't know. I felt that whole thing, and I felt that whole thing because like the reality is like, you know, as somebody that like at 13, 14, 15 was just like overwhelmed with like feeling and emotion and didn't know what to do with those things, like. It's like you're so dealing with those things that like whatever like you can't even think of what it is that you would even do if you were with a girl. Like it's like there's so much to get there. Like
what would one do?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess while I don't argue with the concept put forth necessarily, I just don't like Only in Dreams isn't that for me. This song just doesn't do that for me.
Okay.
I honestly like, this is one of the songs that there's like this half-step progression that happens during the chorus that is like, is it one of the few like really like minor key kind of components to this entire album?
Yes, totally.
I feel like it's a good idea in the wrong place. Like, it comes in that album, and it feels like someone just, like, drastically changed the tracks, like, sonically for me, and it takes me out of enjoying Only in Dreams.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay.
It's like, I would prefer a song that was more in the vein of that.
Yeah.
But throwing that into like the middle of this song just seems really dissonant in a way that doesn't jive with me.
Okay. Wow. All right, Jenny.
I guess the most I could really say about this one is that just as and I've already forgotten which fucking one at this point, but just as I was just talking about how one of them was like the first time where he sounded, you know, actually angry or resentful. I think that this one is the first one where he really like feels sad. Like there's a tangible sadness to it. And you know, I think that it's not one that I gravitate to. It's like definitely one that's in the like this is fine category for me. It's not a favorite, but I think it's notable for that reason, and I think that with everything that you read probably does a decent amount towards putting that in context.
Dude,
I guess
the self-hatred in that writing
is
just is like pretty epic, and like actually it's like pretty like I can definitely understand pieces of it. Like this guy's had a lot of time to reflect, and like it's kind of like the way that like no one else is like embarrassing. Insofar as like I remember being like jealous and like angry and not knowing what to do with those things. But like thankfully I never wrote anything down or like made a song and then like put it out on a major label, right?
At 24,
right?
This is totally off topic, but I just want to tell you before I forget to share this with you because it's amazing and I love it.
Yeah.
Speaking of writing things down when we were angsty, so Aaron lived with me for a couple of years in my old apartment, and when I moved here, I was like unpacking boxes, and there are actual songs that he has scribbled down on envelopes and shit, that I kept. And they are amazing, and we could probably do a whole podcast episode about songs by themselves.
That would be so fucking awesome.
And he is a little bit, I think, upset that I have my hands on them, but he left them in my house and they're fair game. So,
yeah, it sounds like he should be a little bit upset. He should be plotting some Mission Impossible style shit to get that back right now.
Great. Well, it's a little late because Dab City and one of them was called Dab City, and one was all about how there were. I'm gonna mess it up, but there were lots of ladies waiting in his line, but he's a little bit busy right now, and he doesn't really have the time to love them, and they're gonna have to get their butter churned elsewhere. Like,
wait, their butter churned.
Nice.
That's.
Who's using the butter churn metaphor in a song?
I'm never throwing that away. I'm gonna have it framed and hang it in my house so that when he comes over, he has to be. No, it's mean, but
I would argue if he ever gets married, you have to in front of the wedding party.
I will wrap it as his wedding present, and when he opens it in front of everyone will be like, "Oh, read it," and he'll be like,
"I think you should read it as like a speech at the wedding." For
sure. Exactly. That's like.
So
the thing I keep wondering is it set to Detroit Rock City? Is this like because I feel like the themes.
Let's do a different episode where we deconstruct Aaron's musical lyrics.
I think that is absolutely going to happen.
In any event, my point being that I think that that we've all been there, but thank God most of us no longer have either never wrote it down in the first place or have long since destroyed it, as we should.
Yeah.
I mean, one hopes. Who knows what's floating around somewhere at my parents' house that no one's uncovered yet? Who knows?
But on the other hand, while not having the internet growing up was a curse in regards to music, it was a blessing in regards to I only have the dumb shit I said in my 20s to try to delete. That's
exactly. It. And that was more emotionally stable than the dumb shit I could have been saying on the internet.
For sure. Agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Only in Dreams is a song that I really. I want to but I have a hard time with the progression into that chorus.
Yeah.
And it's a song that I find so when I made my EP cut, right? It was really what songs do I want to skip when I listen to them?
Yes.
And what songs do I want to listen to? This was not I'm sure there will be Teenage Me cuts.
Sure.
This was
you want to listen to?
I've listened to the fucking Blue album 20 times in a row now. I have to keep listening to the Blue album, and what can I stand to listen to? For the next few days while we prepare for this.
Okay, all right. So look, let's just go through real quick the B-sides. Susanne is a B-side. Do you remember Susanne?
Only from
the Mallrats. So okay.
Was that wasn't Mallrats? That was Jay and Silent Bob.
No, that was Mallrats. So
they're leaving with the monkey.
Yes. That's trust me, it's Mallrats.
Okay. All right.
It's Mallrats. So it's the outro. It's the credits of Mallrats that song plays. And I don't know. For me, I love that song. It's a cool song. It's a great song. I don't know why the hell it wasn't on this album. I have no idea.
It's better than no one else.
It's
Yeah.
It's cool, and if you haven't listened to it, I don't know, Jenny, if you've listened to it.
I did, but it's the one of these for me. Like speaking of like Beach Boys and older, like the grandfathers of who might be for Weezer. This one like feels more of a throwback, I think, than any of the others, just because of like that rhythm. It has much more of like an older like.
Even
Worker.
is he slashing Axl
Yeah,
Rose? Yeah.
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 That one more so than any of the others really feels like it's got like one foot like way back.
For sure.
Yeah. And like I think if we were to compare that and Buddy Holly, like it does that more effectively than Buddy Holly is a great kind of throwback kind of rock reference, but I think Suzanne's the better track.
Well, Buddy Holly has the reference to the 50s star, but Suzanne is like the song that sounds like more like a 50s song.
Yeah. So wait, when we're talking B-sides, do we know who produced these? Like, are these songs that were also recorded with Ocasek?
I don't know 100%.
It makes sense if Ocasek's involved in Susanne.
I don't know 100%. So it's really hard. So there are 4 B-sides that were released as part of so what I'm calling B-sides are just songs that were released as part of the singles that were on the single song.
There were 3 singles?
There were 3 singles.
There were 4?
There were 3 singles and 2 videos.
Okay.
So there was Buddy Holly, there was the video for Undone, and then there was a single for Say It Ain't So.
Right, okay.
So Susanne, Mykel and Carli was released on one of them, and then the song Jamie, and then there's the song My Eveline, which is like a barbershop quartet song. It's like 40 seconds long. It's a joke. It's just like a joke. So I'm not even going to talk about it. It's a bigger
joke than the sweater song.
Right.
The only.
I'm not even going to bother with that one. Mykel and Carli, we can talk about more in the after show, but that's a song about these
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I know it's supposed to be like sad. I guess it's about people who I take it are no longer with us, and I feel bad because I actually really like that song.
I really like it too.
They apparently stopped playing it for like 15 years.
It really slaps. And I feel bad. I feel guilty that it slaps, and I enjoy it so much because I feel like I'm not supposed to, but I do.
No, I think you should definitely enjoy it. I mean, it's a good song. This is one of those songs where I feel like, why was this left off the album? Like, I don't even know.
Well, yeah. I think that when it was written, the intention was to slap, right? This wasn't one of those written homage to
I don't think so.
Fans.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
They wrote it, and then while they were touring, there was a car accident that killed those 2.
They wrote it before,
and their sister.
They wrote it before.
That makes a lot more sense.
They wrote it before. It was a fan club. They were like a band that had a fan club early on, and so these 2 sisters were some of the first people that were in their fan club, and they're super fans essentially, and so they became friends with them, and then they wrote them the song that didn't make the album, and then later on during the Pinkerton tour, they died. So no, it's a good song. I mean, it's a great song. I really dig it. It's pretty simple, but I really dig it. Jamie, I don't really have much to say about it. It's okay. It's fine. I'm completely comfortable with that song not being on the album. Okay. Star ratings. Out of 5 stars, if you had to give it a star rating out of 5 stars, what would you say?
It's like a 3.
3 stars.
It's like a 3 for me.
Okay.
I can enjoy it when it's on. It's not a thing that I find myself wanting to go to for anything. Weezer doesn't provide anything for me. It barely ever did. It doesn't now. It's not terrible. It doesn't change the game. It's like a 3. It's like a solid 3. 3 is not a bad thing. I can't listen to 5s all the time. I can't listen to nothing but 5s. My life is not that good.
3 is better than 2.5, which would be average.
Sure.
60 is 60 an F?
I think so. Maybe.
It depends on if we're working on that that dead decimal, or if it's like the 3 range.
3.
You know, if it's
No, so
it's a 3.
Fine. So it's fine for you.
It's fine. Right. I'm not gonna. My ears don't bleed. I don't go through any sort of pain and suffering when it's on.
That's good. That's good.
I'm also not gonna stop conversation for anything on this album.
Okay. All right, Jenny.
You know, oddly enough, I think I might also end up probably a 3 or a 3.5, and I feel very bad saying that because I think it's highly variable by song. There's some songs that I really like a lot, and I would give them like 4s and 5s. But because half of the album is songs that I'm like very meh about, the average ends up getting drugged down, which is unfortunate. So, you know, and I have that problem with virtually every album. I mean, there's a few that are solid all the way through, but you know, I feel like it's unfair in a way to say like 3.5
because it's get mad. Don't worry.
But there are some good songs.
Yeah, 3.5. There are some good songs. Okay, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think that there's a bad song on this whole record, and I give that 4 stars just remembering the context of the 90s when there were albums that came out that had 20 tracks. There was like one good song on there and you paid $20 for it.
That is fair.
And so like I feel like there's not one bad song on here. There's like songs I don't love, but there's not one bad song on here. I also feel like this album, like I wasn't like this album is the persona I think is closer to the person that I was back then and less the person I wanted to be. And I listened to music that was like more about the person I wanted to be and less who I was. And like now having 25 years of like separation really, like if for me I feel like I don't have the baggage and I can kind of let go of that and sort of examine it like from a high level. And like, you know, I think that this album, like it's like even the songs that are like that didn't age well or whatever, like they're all kind of like a lot of these songs are like little pieces of me from back then that I don't know why I maybe I was just distracted by like how like pretty and like the melodies, how good the melodies were on the song, but I just never listened to it really. And listening to it now, I just like, man, I should have listened to it back then. I think it probably would have given me some sort of comfort or something. I don't know. So that's my 4 out of 5 stars. So
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I like to think about this as like to think about how much money I spent on albums that were exactly like you said, like 1 or 2 songs that I find myself enjoying, and you know, then I'm dropping like $20 on that album. This is certainly good value, like 10 listenable songs,
right?
And at 13, that's probably why it dominated. You know, anytime that it dominated on my playlist, it's probably why it's that I can put that in, leave that in, and be just as happy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's go on to the EP cuts. Should I start? I'm happy to.
Sure. Go for it.
All right. So my EP cut, like I mentioned earlier, I cheated and I added a B-side. I
actually added B-sides because I thought we could. So.
Yes. Good. Perfect. Beautiful. I mean, there are no rules. I just, you know, so yeah, my EP cut is almost 27 minutes long. Track 1 is Holiday. Track 2 is The World Has Turned and Left Me Here. Track 3, Say It Ain't So. Track 4, Susanne. Track 5, In the Garage. Track 6, Only in Dreams. I couldn't put Only in Dreams anywhere else but at the end. That, what he's saying about Weezer's Freebird is like so right. And like I love Freebird. Freebird is like maybe in my top 10 of like songs of all time. Like, I could listen to Freebird right now. And like, he's totally right. Like, Freebird is about, it's like, it's delivered from a confident posture. It's like, man, hey, like, I'm free. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm free. I gotta go. You know? Like, I gotta get out of here, right? That's just the way it goes. And then his version of it is the exact opposite. It's like not confident, never like, pining, and so like it's like Freebird is like the person I wanted to be as a teenager, and Only in Dreams is the person I was.
Or maybe put another way, it's been a challenging mating season for Freebird person. Maybe.
Yeah. But I love both. So yeah. So that's my EP cut. I left off Buddy Holly. I left off No One Else. I left off My Name Is Jonas. I left off the Sweater Song. But none of those songs are songs that I dislike. They're all cool and good, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with that the ones I left off were not bad songs, and I think that's a really really fair point to make. Is that like Lewis is right? It could be so much worse, and like the fact that I'm just choosing amongst good songs and leaving off the fine songs, I think says something.
Sure.
Mine ended up being, and I don't know if they're in a particular order per se, but I would have to put the Sweater Song first, just because. And then from the actual album, I kept Buddy Holly, which I do like, even though I feel like it's kind of cheesy as fuck. I still bounce to it, and that's like, that's a benchmark, at least in my book. So I kept My Name Is Jonas and Say It Ain't So, and then my B-sides. I actually like these, and frankly, these might, if I were ordering them in order of preference, Mykel and Carli and Jamie would be 2 and 3 probably.
Oh shit! So we should have talked about Jamie. I think Jamie's cool. I guess so what was it about Jamie?
Actually, I'm not 100% sure why I think this, and I tried to do some quick Googling to see if I was crazy. But the first time I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this from a soundtrack. And then I kept going back to try to figure out like where I'd heard it. And I'm not sure that that's actually true. I think that might have been like a pile of shit and just not a right memory.
Okay.
But it sounded so familiar, and like it just it. Not only do I think it's a good song, but also it sounded like I just had kind of like a gut reaction to it. Like, oh yeah, like this must have been on like Angus or like one of those like very 90s coming of age like punk style movies that appealed to me back then.
Yeah. Could have been.
I don't think so. I tried Googling like Weezer, Jamie, and soundtrack and didn't pull anything up. So I might just be crazy, but I do like it. I think it's something about it is comforting. So I like it.
We can talk about Pinkerton later, but like Pinkerton's like B-sides, I have no idea why the fuck they got left off of Pinkerton. Like, they're some of the best songs they've ever done, and I feel the same way about at least 2 of these B-sides. Like, like what the fuck were they thinking? Like, there's no theme to this record. Like, there's no like, it's not like a concept album, so like it's not like, oh well, this didn't make sense because it didn't fit the story or some shit like that.
Oh yeah, right.
Like, so I don't even know. Like, it makes no sense to me. But I love like Mykel and Carli. I love that song. It's really simple, but it's really beautiful. Like, it has more like the twee kind of like indie. Like, I don't know, it has like more of like the Pixies kind of indie sound to me.
Yeah.
But I love it. Like, I mean, that's a good sound.
Yeah.
I dig it. Okay.
I like them both, and I think that like even Jamie has that little goofy like woo that they just throw in, right. And like I don't know, I love it. It's endearing.
Okay, cool. All right, Ryan, what do you got?
So, Mykel and Carli, Susanne for sure. My Name Is Jonas there's just something about the way that pops in that it may not stick for the whole song for me, but it just, there's something about the punch at the beginning of that song that makes my cut. Surf Wax America, In the Garage, Holiday, and still No One Else.
Wow. See, No One Else was the one that I had the most, like, back and forth on whether it made the cut. And for me, it was just, again, like, for me, it was like, do you know why it was like, for me, including it would have been more representative of, like, me back then. So, so for me, like, that was, like, it was more like, okay, that feels more true, but, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, this is completely independent of lyrics. This is just about I can hear the song again, and ignore the lyrics and still really like the groove of the song. But yeah, I can't listen to. There's so like the singles from this album. As much as I like the guitar solo of Say It Ain't So, I can't sit through Say It Ain't So again. I can't really sit through the Sweater Song or Buddy Holly again.
So you just don't have enough separation.
There's not enough separate. Like, I've listened to this so few times since the time it came out that there's no way to get more separation. I just can't. I can't sit down and listen to the album, listen to those tracks without going, yeah, okay, next. It just, maybe it's like the way I listened to it this week and the fact that I tried really hard to get this in my rotation. Maybe a casual me could like listen to the Sweater Song or Say It Ain't So a few more times.
I understand.
There's no alternate Ryan reality where Buddy Holly is a track that I would hear again.
I understand. I mean, I feel like that about lots of songs from the 90s, right? Like, it's just like, I can't fucking listen to this thing one more fucking time, right? But usually those songs aren't on records where I feel like the rest of the record is strong, right? It's like, you know, like, I can't listen to, like, any, you know, I don't know, like, All Star by Smash Mouth or Walking on the Sun, right? But, like, also I can't listen to anything else by Smash Mouth, right? Because, like, that shit sucks.
Well, I mean, but you know, it's a tough comparison to make. Like, Buddy Holly's still a good song. I can still talk about, like, these being good songs.
Yeah.
I just don't want to hear them again. Like, if I'm making a playlist, it's not going to have them because there's no part of me that wants to hear that again. Whereas, like, like the songs that I pick are songs that I don't ever really hear of Weezer.
Yeah.
And even on multiple playthroughs, I haven't gotten sick of them.
Right.
They all have their problems for sure. But in terms of like what I want to hear, okay. I don't know.
All right.
If I could cut the vocals out of No One Else, it'd be a perfect song.
It'd be like not a Rocky Erickson. It'd be like a Stevie Moore song, right? Like, I think, right? Like, you just cut the lyrics out and just like play it like all fuzzed out, right?
I would be. I'm still amazed that, like, having never put out an album before, like, this album is as solid as it is the whole way through. You know, it's 10 tracks of listenable material for sure.
Okay, all right. So I think we did it. Fucking high five. We fucking did it.